interview. For many of us, it's the most brutal part of a job search. But Joni Daniels is here. She has some top 10 tips for typical interview questions. It's always good to see you.
Thank you so much. It's great to be back.
Well, let's get to it, because I'll tell you, I find the interviewing a brutal part of the process. And this first question that you said expect to be asked is one that I always struggle with. Tell me about yourself.
Yeah, it's not really a question, but it's sort of an icebreaker. And people think it's an invitation to tell their life story. And that's not what the question is really about. What you really should be focusing on is what one or two things about you make you a really great candidate. And you're setting the stage for more questions about your strengths.
Okay, the next one, what is your greatest weakness?
Your greatest weakness, nobody has weaknesses. Your goal is not to point out what you're bad at. Your goal is to point out something about you that, if taken to an extreme, might be seen as something that's a concern, but it actually isn't. Like, you know, I'm really pay a lot of attention to detail because it's very important to me what goes out that has my name on it.
Right, so maybe say something, I'm a perfectionist, as opposed to I'm very lazy.
Right, exactly.
All right, number 3, what is your greatest strength?
Right, this is the time to really not just talk about what you think is your greatest strength, but what is the thing that you think you have the most talent in that directly relates to the job you're interviewing for.
Okay, so and what do you do, Joni, when you're sitting in an interview and a potential employer says, what are your expectations for salary?
This is not a question you answer. Until you're offered a job, salary really should be off the table. And they use it to screen you in or out. So you might want to say something like, I'd like to find out a little bit more about the job and the responsibilities. I'm really interested in the opportunities here, but try not to say anything about salary until somebody actually makes you a bona fide job offer.
Because it can really hurt you one way or the other.
Absolutely.
I mean, they might say this person, you know, has very low expectations, so we'll take them, and you know, or they have really high ones. So that's,
right.
that's a tough one to answer unless you know that. What about how do you handle pressure?
What they really want to know is how do you handle stress, and every job has stress. So you want to give some examples in your past of times when things have been stressful at work, but you've handled it well, you've sailed through, you know how to cope with the challenges of any job.
Okay, you're on an interview and they're digging up the past when they say, tell me about your best or your worst boss.
What they really want to know is, what do you like and how does that fit with the manager's style? And instead of talking about either your greatest boss or even worse, don't tell them about your worst boss, because then it looks like you're talking about other people in a bad or negative way. What you want to really point out is the kind of bosses you've had and what you've learned from them, both the ones with good behaviors as well as the ones with bad management style.
What about when they say, what have you been doing since your last job?
You know, in this current economy, being laid off, being fired, being a stay-at-home mom, being let go because of a staff reduction is no great secret and should be no great shame. My recommendation to anyone looking for work is, no matter what the reason, don't lie about it.
Right, that's a good one. What about when they ask you, why do you want this job? Why do you want to work for our company? Everybody
likes to feel special, and employers like to think that you've chosen them. So do some homework, look them up on the website, and talk about some of the aspects of that organization that make it especially appealing to you.
One that I think a lot of people struggle with is when you're asked, where do you see yourself in the next 5 years?
Yeah, this is not an invitation to say, I want your job. Basically, what they want to know is, have you thought about where this might lead? What are your aspirations? So you can talk about, I want to be given more responsibility. I'd like to have some challenges. I'd like to learn more. I'd like to be developed in these particular areas.
And when they ask you, do you have any questions for me? You definitely want to come with questions.
Absolutely. This is something that they want to, they basically are trying to find out, are you really curious about the job, or are you just looking for anything, any port in a storm? So do some homework, look at their website. You might want to ask some questions about some information you've seen there, or articles you've read about in the Baltimore Business Journal or the Baltimore Sun, and ask about some questions that directly relate to this organization.
All right, Joni, you're always great. Thanks for coming in, Joni Daniels. And once you get that job, then you have to go through perhaps a contract. Isn't that right, Jamie?
Wait till you hear here.